a man, a wife, a best friend. Three pieces in an old chess game where no one plays by the rules. One random item, a pair of someone else's underwear, sets off a chain of events that tears apart 20 years of marriage, friendship, and illusion. Dirty jokes, forgotten calls, half-truths, everything becomes evidence. And then comes the trap. An old farm, a crumbling building, a door that locks from the outside. The air reeks of dust and vengeance. Everything they tried to bury will rise, blood, screams, humiliation. There are no heroes here, only those who thought they were smarter than everyone else, and the one who stayed silent for far too long, but now has chosen to speak. Loudly. Very loudly. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. That morning, the stale aftertaste of yesterday's coffee lingered unpleasantly on Harrison Knox's tongue. It was tepid, acidic, and matched his mood with unsettling precision. Once celebrated for his sharp eye and unwavering instincts as a police officer, Harrison now led a life of quiet withdrawal. He stood in the familiar kitchen of the home he'd occupied for over 30 years, idly swirling the dregs of his coffee in a worn mug, his thoughts drifting back to the disturbing realization he'd come to the day before. He had been folding laundry when something caught his eye, a pair of men's underwear that didn't belong to him. They were a size too large, slightly frayed along one seam, and bore a faint discoloration near the waistband. At first, he stared at them in puzzled silence, unsure if his mind was playing tricks. But then, like a photograph sliding into focus, a memory returned. 3 months earlier, during a fishing trip, he had seen the exact same kind of briefs peeking out of Russell Carrington's bag. Russell had gone on about how comfortable they were, even joking that he ought to stock up for life. Harrison had laughed back then. Now that light-hearted exchange felt like a ghost pressing down on his chest. Alone in the dim light of the laundry room, he had muttered to himself, "These aren't mine," and something heavy had begun to burn in the pit of his stomach. Ever since, he had been mentally unraveling every moment with Russell, the beers, the stories, the decades of camaraderie. They'd served on the force around the same time, though never in the same unit. Still, they had been as close as brothers, frequent fishing trips, pool games at Max, confidants through life's twists. Now, Harrison stared back at the laundry hamper. If those boxers really did belong to Russell, the implication was devastating. Lena, his wife, was sleeping with his oldest friend. His lungs tightened. 20 years of marriage, trust, and shared history felt like they were collapsing. Doubts flooded his thoughts. How long had this been happening? Had he really been that blind? Wordlessly, he grabbed his phone and stepped outside, needing space to breathe. He left without a sound, careful not to disturb Lena, who sat flipping through television channels, her face unreadable. She seemed entirely detached, unaware that her husband was breaking apart. The next morning, Harrison went through the motions. He kissed her cheek like always, though something about her expression gnawed at him. A hint of amusement, or maybe arrogance. Had she always looked at him that way? Or was he only seeing it now? Shaking off the haze of confusion, he drove to the old shooting range, a place where he used to clear his head. But even as the bullets punched clean holes in the targets, his mind remained in chaos. He kept returning to the signs he'd missed, the nights Lena claimed to be with friends, the sudden schedule changes from Russell, the cryptic texts that now seemed to hum with hidden meaning. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, forming an image he didn't want to accept. By midday, the investigator in him stirred. If he wanted answers, he'd have to dig, just like he used to. The same tools that once exposed criminals would now be turned inward, to the world he thought he knew. He began with care. He combed through the laundry again, checked pockets, examined the trash. That's when he found them. Cigarette butts tucked among old receipts and lint. Not just any kind. A specific brand, one Harrison recognized instantly. Russell's preferred smokes. Neither Harrison nor Lena smoked. That left only one possibility. That evening, over dinner, he broached the topic lightly. "Hey, found a few cigarettes in the laundry. You take it up again?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. Lena didn't blink. She raised an eyebrow and offered a flat smile. "Oh, probably Janine's. She was over last week. She still smokes, you know," she said with practiced ease. Harrison nodded, pretending to accept it. Right, forgot. But inside, he was unraveling. The ease with which she lied chilled him. In the days that followed, Harrison crossed a line he had long vowed never to approach. He dug into an old drawer and retrieved a small voice recorder, one of the discreet models he used in his time on the job. He had never needed it in retirement. Until now. He tucked it beneath the driver's seat in Lena's car. She always put her calls on speaker when she drove. If Russell's voice turned up on the recordings, Harrison would have his confirmation. Just planting the device made his stomach twist. But the alternative, staying in the dark, was worse. 2 nights later, he sat alone in the garage, the recorder in his hand. Most of what he heard was mundane: traffic noise, a grocery run, a few radio stations. Then, suddenly, Lena's voice cut through the static. Soft, playful. "Hey baby," she cooed. "Harrison's out. We can talk." Harrison froze. That tone, the intimacy, none of it was meant for him. Then came a muffled reply, but the voice was unmistakable. Russell. "You sure the old dog isn't catching on?" he asked with a chuckle. Lena giggled. "Please, he's clueless. We've pulled this off for 20 years, Russell. 20. He doesn't have a clue." Harrison stared at the recorder, his thumb poised over the pause button. 20 years. Their entire friendship. The room swayed, but he let the tape play on. Russell's voice filtered through again, mentioning when they could meet next, followed by Lena's amused voice. "Last time, you left your underwear in the laundry, you idiot. I had to shove them under Harrison's old uniform so he wouldn't notice." Russell laughed. That was too close. But now, nothing could get in their way. So she thought. A volatile mix of agony and fury surged through Harrison's chest as he nearly shattered the recorder in his hand. His breath hitched, chest tight. They'd been ridiculing him for 2 decades, thinking he'd never find out. His jaw ached from the pressure he kept grinding into it. In that moment, a cold clarity settled over him. He wouldn't just confront them. That would be far too simple. No, he would craft something meticulous, so layered and merciless that they'd be forced to choke on every deceitful moment they thought they'd gotten away with. The following morning, Harrison wore his usual mask around Lena. Calm, unbothered. He even offered to do the grocery run. She tilted her head. It wasn't like Harrison to volunteer for chores, but after a beat, she gave a knowing half-smile. "All right. We're low on milk and eggs." He nodded smoothly and stepped outside without missing a beat. In the cab of his truck, he stared at the horizon as plans began to churn. Charging in head first would only lead to shouting, maybe some tears, but no real closure. No, he wanted more than closure. He wanted disgrace. He wanted them to feel the sting of humiliation that had kept him up at night. It had to be calculated, preferably public, or at least impossible to ignore. His years in law enforcement had honed his talent for building traps, ones tight enough that even the slickest criminals couldn't wriggle free. Now, in a grim twist of fate, he'd weaponized that same skill against his wife and his oldest friend. He picked up his phone and called Julian, an old partner who'd long since retired but still owed him a few favors. "I need a background check on Russell Carrington," Harrison said, voice low. Julian chuckled dryly. "Russell? From the unit back in the day? What's he gotten into?" Harrison exhaled slowly. "I've got reason to think he's been sleeping around. Multiple married women, not just one. I need proof. Think I can dig it up? Julian asked, hesitation in his voice. Kind of a strange request, even for you. You want me pulling from old case files or starting clean? Start clean, Harrison said through clenched teeth. Check everything. His phone, socials, job access, whatever you can find. Julian grunted. All right, I'll keep it under wraps. As the call ended, a flicker of grim satisfaction flickered in Harrison's expression. If Russell really had been targeting married women, Harrison could reach out to their husbands, form a united front. Let's show the world exactly who he is, he muttered, his scheme taking shape piece by piece. Next came the question of location. Harrison sifted through old property records until one name stood out, an abandoned farm about 10 miles out of town. Years back, it had been raided during a criminal sting, and Harrison had ended up with a set of access keys filed under county property. It was a ghost of a place, perfectly tucked away from curious eyes. The farmhouse was crumbling, windows shattered, timbers buckling. The barn was still full of dusty hay and mildew. One afternoon, he drove out there to confirm what he remembered. The path was overgrown, gravel barely visible beneath weeds. Sure enough, the gate groaned under its own weight, and rust had eaten away the warning sign. Harrison tested the barn door. It still held strong, and more importantly, it could be locked from the outside. A secluded stage for a long-overdue reckoning. Some might call it crossing a line, but Harrison saw it differently. He wasn't planning harm, just a setting where the truth couldn't be dodged. We'll see how brave they are when the lies are cornered, he murmured. Now he needed bait, something that would lure Lena and Russell to the property. Maybe a story about an untouched fishing spot, or a stash of valuables left behind. Something tempting. While he mulled it over, Julian called back. Turns out Russell had been busy. Over the last 12 months, he'd seduced at least 3 married women. Julian had receipts, texts, call logs, private messages. The husbands? All local men, strong, working class, and completely unaware. Julian chuckled darkly. They're gonna lose their damn minds. A slow smile formed on Harrison's lips. Then it's time they knew. One by one he contacted each man, careful not to reveal too much at once. Some of them he recognized, guys from the gym, others from old police work. He shared just enough, that Russell had slept with their wives. At first, they didn't believe it. Then came the anger. I've got the proof, Harrison told them. Come with me to the old farm. We'll confront him, together. They agreed, every one of them. They wanted answers. They wanted revenge. Harrison gave them the time and place, warning them to stay silent for now. Don't tell your wives, he said. We need surprise on our side. They nodded, furious and ready. The night before it was all set to unfold, Harrison casually brought it up to Lena over breakfast. I found a dirt-cheap fixer-upper, he said lightly. Thought you might want to check it out. I could use your opinion. Say, around 4 tomorrow? She froze, eyes narrowing. You? Buying farmland now, huh? He forced a grin, trying to make it seem offhand. Retirement got dull, he said with a shrug. Figured I'd take on something big, shake things up. If you're around, swing by, he added. I'll send you the address. Lena gave a half-hearted shrug. Yeah, okay, she said, her tone flat, disinterested. Harrison didn't react. He kept his expression neutral, calm. There was no reason for her to suspect anything, at least not from him. To her, Harrison was still the harmless type, some out-of-touch relic. Once she was gone, he sent a quick message to Russell. Found a beat-up place just outside town, might be worth flipping. Need a second opinion. Meet me there at 4. I'll share the pin. Keep this between us. Russell didn't hesitate. You got it, man. See you soon. Harrison stared at the message, a slow, bitter smirk tugging at one side of his mouth. Man, he repeated under his breath, gripping the phone harder. Not much longer. He walked the perimeter again, double-checking every lock. Nothing left to chance. Everything had to go exactly as planned. Travis, Jordan, and Malcolm, the trio of husbands who'd been played, were expected to show up around 4:30. But Lena and Russell had to be inside first. They were the ones who set this whole thing in motion. Then came the final piece. Sabrina, Russell's wife, Julian's partner, Harrison's best friend's girl. Julian had recently found out about Russell's other betrayal, cheating on Sabrina too. She needed to be there. She deserved the truth, maybe more than anyone. That morning, Harrison sent her a message. "You don't know me, but your husband is sleeping with my wife. I can prove it. Come to the old farm. You'll see for yourself." At first, Sabrina was wary, but after Harrison shared a screenshot, one of Russell's explicit messages, her doubt turned to fury. She called immediately, her voice shaking with rage. "I'll be there," she hissed. "That piece of garbage. I knew something was wrong." Harrison ended the call without another word. Everything was in motion. For the first time in a long time, his mind felt clear, sharp, cold. No more pretending, no more playing dumb. By 3:45, he arrived at the weather-beaten farm. Gray clouds hung low, sky dull as slate. Wind slipped through the gaps in the barn's siding, whispering like ghosts. He parked out of sight behind the house. Inside the cavernous, decaying barn, he set up a metal chair by one of the main beams, tested the door's lock one more time. Fast, secure. At exactly 4, a car pulled up, dust swirling behind it. From the broken window, Harrison watched Lena step out, eyes narrowed as she scanned the grounds. "Harrison," she called, "this place is disgusting." He stepped from the shadows, quiet and steady. "Back here," he said, motioning toward the barn. "Come check it out." Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What's the big secret?" "Just come inside. It'll make sense." She tossed her hair and sighed. "Whatever," she muttered, strutting over like she was still calling the shots. A few minutes later, another vehicle approached. Russell stepped out, that infuriating smirk plastered on his face. "Hey, man," he greeted. "Got your message. What's up with this dump?" Harrison gave him a cold nod. "Inside. I'll explain everything." Lena folded her arms, eyeing both men warily. There was something in her face. Doubt, maybe. But she said nothing. She followed them into the barn. It was dim inside, the air thick with dust and the scent of mildew. The rafters sagged, and rusted equipment was scattered across the floor. Lena wrinkled her nose. Russell looked around, eyebrows raised. "Okay, so what's the big reveal?" Without responding, Harrison moved back to the door. He hauled it shut with a dull thud and dropped the iron bar across it. The metallic clank echoed like a warning. Lena spun around. "What the hell are you doing?" Her voice rose sharply. Russell blinked. "Harrison?" Harrison turned to face them, arms crossed, voice taut with anger. "We're going to have a conversation about 20 years of lies, about betrayal, about how the two of you made me the fool." Lena's face went pale. "Are you out of your mind?" Russell let out a nervous laugh. "Come on, man. What are you even saying? There's no—" Harrison lifted his phone and pressed play. From the tiny speaker, Lena's voice spilled out, light and laughing. "He's never going to catch on. He's completely clueless." Then Russell's voice followed, smug and self-satisfied. 20 years, baby. We pulled it off for 20 years. The recording crackled and cut out. Lena went ghost white. Russell's eyes darted like cornered prey. "You recorded us?" Lena breathed, her voice cracking with fury. Harrison's jaw clenched, his eyes hard. "You left me no other option." "I found a pair of your boxers mixed in with my clothes, Russell." Russell froze mid-motion, scrambling to find words. "Wait, this isn't what you think." Lena let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "What difference does it make now? The secret's out. We had our fling." "What?" Did you think you could lock us up like fugitives? We'll call the police, she added, voice defiant. Harrison smirked, eyes glinting with menace. Go ahead. I am the police, or I was. I know exactly how to handle situations like this. No one's leaving until I say otherwise. Russell moved closer, fists clenched. Don't push me, Harrison. You're making a mistake. Harrison squared up, his posture rigid with authority. You're in no place to threaten me, Russell. The door's bolted, and we're expecting company. Lena narrowed her gaze. Company? Who's coming? Before Harrison could reply, footsteps pounded outside, followed by a furious banging on the barn door. Russell's shoulders tensed, dread rippling through him. Harrison unlatched the wooden beam just enough to peer out. He recognized the figures instantly, Travis, Jordan, and Malcolm, each one the husband of a woman Russell had been seeing. Perfect timing. He opened the door wider and waved them in. What the hell is happening? Lena demanded as the trio stepped into the barn, each of them brimming with rage. Malcolm locked eyes with Russell. That's him? The lowlife who's been messing with my wife? Travis growled, fists tight. We've got the messages to prove it, Jordan added, his voice a storm. Russell's face went pale. Guys, wait. This is a misunderstanding, he said, voice cracking. Jordan strode forward, looming. Misunderstanding? Don't insult my intelligence. You've been sneaking around with my wife for months. Did you really think we wouldn't catch on? Lena's eyes darted between Harrison and Russell, realization dawning. You were cheating on me too? Russell? You told me I was the only one. Russell threw up his hands in panic. Lena, come on. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. Her face twisted in disgust. You filthy liar. Harrison chuckled coldly. Now you see, Lena? The man you chose over me, he betrayed you too. Lena spun toward Harrison, fury burning in her eyes. This was all a setup, wasn't it? You're just as bad. You lied like the rest of us. Harrison's voice dropped, grim and steady. Not anymore. I'm done with the lies. He dropped the latch behind the three men with a heavy click. Nobody's leaving until every secret's dragged into the light. Russell spun around, eyes wide. The other men closed in, surrounding him. Guys, please, let's talk this out. No need for this to get ugly. Malcolm cracked his knuckles, stepping forward. You had a lot to say to my wife. Let's hear what you've got for me. Suddenly, a shrill voice rang from outside the barn, high-pitched and furious. Harrison, open this door! Harrison knew that voice. Sabrina, Russell's wife, right on cue. He slid the door open again. Sabrina stormed in, fury radiating off her. You piece of trash, she yelled, jabbing a finger toward Russell. You've been sleeping with married women, including her? She pointed at Lena. You told me you were out of town for work. And all this time you were cheating? I can't even look at you. Russell stepped forward, palms up. Sabrina, please, let me explain. She slapped him hard across the face, the sound cracking through the rafters. Don't you baby me, you bastard, she screamed. Lena snorted. Serves you right, Russell. Then she turned to Sabrina, voice sharp as ice. But don't think you can come in here and hit my man. Sabrina rounded on her. Your man? Please. She lunged and slapped Lena across the face, knocking her back. Staggering but steady, Lena reached for an old shovel leaning in the corner. You hit me again, and I'll break your skull. Sabrina sneered. Try me, you pathetic homewrecker. Before the fight could erupt, Harrison lunged between them, arms outstretched. Enough. That's the end of it. His words sliced through the tension like a blade honed in battle, the unmistakable authority of a former commander ringing out. We didn't come here to rip each other apart. We came for the truth. Lena raised the shovel in a slow, deliberate motion, her eyes locked on Harrison. Truth? You want that now? Her tone was poisonous. How about this? Russell's been sharing my bed for 2 decades. You never caught on. I played you for a fool, Harrison. His jaw clenched, pulse pounding. Say that again, he said, voice rough as gravel, his gaze hard and unwavering. Lena sneered, cool and cruel. "Oh, you heard it. You always thought you were the sharp one. Russell and I used to laugh at how blind you were." That was all it took. Travis and Jordan surged toward Russell like wolves. "You slept with my wife?" Travis's voice was low and full of venom. "You filthy bastard." Russell threw his hands up. "Wait, listen." "No more waiting," Malcolm barked and shoved him violently. His fist came next, slamming into Russell's stomach and folding him in half. Russell stumbled, gasping, face contorted with pain. Harrison stayed still. He didn't lift a finger. Let them get it out, he thought. Sabrina stood off to the side, arms crossed, lips tight in satisfaction. She watched Russell suffer without a flicker of pity. Lena edged away, uncertain now, but the shovel remained in her grip. Harrison didn't take his eyes off her. Jordan grabbed Russell by the collar, yanking him upright. "You bragged about it, didn't you? About screwing my wife. I saw the damn messages, you freak." Russell's breathing quickened as panic settled in. "You're blowing this way out of—" Travis's punch silenced him. Blood blossomed on Russell's mouth. Lena gasped and rushed forward, shrieking, "Get off him, all of you! Keep this up and I swear I'll call the cops!" Harrison chuckled, a cold, hollow sound. "The police? Really?" He swept a hand around the room. "You think anyone here wants that? You're locked in with us now, Lena. 20 years of lies, betrayal, and humiliation. Let's see how well that plays in a statement." Sabrina stepped forward, fury simmering behind her eyes. "And what about you, acting like some victim?" She gestured at Lena. "You weren't the only one Russell lied to. But you chose to crawl into bed with a married man and stay there. You have no right to talk down to me," Lena hissed, then spit in Sabrina's face. The shovel swung. Sabrina ducked low, then surged upward, catching Lena by the hair. She yanked hard, dragging her sideways. Lena screamed, flailing, "Let go, you witch!" Her hands clawed for Sabrina's arm, but Sabrina held fast, twisting until Lena lost hold of the shovel. "You venom-dripping hypocrite! He was more than you ever deserved!" Lena shrieked, eyes burning. She drove her elbow into Sabrina's ribs. Sabrina grunted, but didn't let go. The pair collapsed onto the barn floor, sending straw flying, locked in a furious brawl. Harrison backed off a step, letting the bedlam unfold. A grim sort of justice clung to the scene. Lena, who'd always kept the upper hand, was finally getting dragged down. He figured he'd step in before bones broke, but not yet. Across the room, Russell was being backed into a corner by the 3 men he'd betrayed. Malcolm rammed him against a wooden post. "You defiled my home, slept with my wife under my own damn roof. That's more than betrayal, it's a declaration of war." Russell spat blood, wheezing. "She came to me. We both—" Jordan smashed a fist into his ribs. "Shut your damn mouth. Don't even think about blaming her." Travis stepped closer, eyes burning. "Still feeling smug, Russell?" Their fists fell like hammers. Russell tried to shield himself, but his arms were too weak. He collapsed to his knees, groaning. "Please, stop." Lena managed to rip herself from Sabrina's grasp and lashed out with a wild punch, connecting with Sabrina's face. Sabrina staggered back, but recovered in a flash, her fury doubled. She slapped Lena hard enough to split her lip. Lena's eyes glistened with rage. She tackled Sabrina, and the 2 of them crashed into a stack of grain sacks, fists flying, voices shrill. Their screams rang through the barn like an alarm. Harrison stood with arms folded, a storm of scorn and satisfaction swirling inside him. "Take a look at what you've caused," he said, his voice dripping with venom as he glared at Lena. "This wreck? It's yours." Still grappling with Sabrina, Lena shot him a look of pure hatred. "To hell with you, Harrison. You never gave me what I needed. That's why I turned to Russell." Sabrina's response was a brutal backhand that left Lena gasping. "You don't get to say that," she snapped. "Not after all of this." By now, Russell was on the ground, barely conscious, face a bloodied mess. Harrison stepped forward at last. His voice was low, steady. Enough. Don't kill him. Just make sure he never forgets what betrayal costs. Russell doubled over in a fit of harsh, wet coughing, dark red splattering the barn's worn floorboards. Harrison, he croaked, his throat raw. Tell them to stop. We can still fix this, can't we? Harrison's gaze was ice cold. Fix it? He echoed, his voice sharp with disdain. You spent 20 years mocking me behind my back. You slept with my wife, in my bed. You used our friendship to cover your betrayal, lied to her, lied to me, lied to everyone. You think you're owed mercy? Lena struggled violently in Sabrina's hold, screaming, Harrison, do something, please! His face didn't flicker. He shook his head slowly. No, you made your choices. Now you deal with the fallout. Breathing heavily, Sabrina let Lena drop. She slumped to the ground, curling into herself, sobbing quietly. Sabrina wiped blood from her lip and stood straight. Rotten hell, she muttered. Lena spat dirt and blood. Psychopath. Sabrina flicked a piece of hay at her dismissively. Shut your damn mouth. Jordan, buttoning his shirt, looked over at Harrison. This is over. He's not walking out of here anytime soon. Travis and Malcolm stepped off Russell's mangled body. He hit the ground hard, shaking, barely able to hold his head up. Harrison scanned the scene, realizing just how far things had gone. It had turned uglier than he planned, but deep down, he felt a cold, grim sense of justice. He moved closer. Russell met his gaze with watery eyes, his whole body trembling. You win, Harrison, he whispered. I'm done. Just let me go. Harrison crouched next to him, voice low and lethal. Let you go? So you can find another woman to crawl into bed with? Laugh about this next time? He leaned in. Not until you face them, every one of them, and apologize. Russell coughed again, red streaking his chin. I'm sorry. To all of you. I've been a terrible person. Lena groaned from the floor. Pathetic. Stop groveling. We can still... Sabrina's rage flared. Still what? Keep pretending none of this happened? You're insane. She made a move toward her, but Banner stepped forward, hand raised. That's enough, he said quietly. Silence fell, heavy and final. Rain began to patter on the tin roof, a steady rhythm above the tension. Harrison inhaled deeply, trying to calm the pounding in his chest. This was the line, the point of no return. I've seen all I need to, he said. He reached for the barn door, unlocking it. A gust of wind pushed in, thick with the smell of wet earth and storm. Everyone out. Travis and Jordan exchanged a look, then each gave Russell a final shove. Malcolm glanced at Harrison, scowling. That it? He's learned his lesson? Harrison nodded once. That's it. The men turned and stepped into the rain, their faces set, each walking away to confront whatever truths they still carried. Sabrina lingered. Her eyes cut through Russell like glass. Don't come home, she said flatly. Then she turned and left, the barn door groaning shut behind her. Russell stayed where he lay, broken and gasping. Lena eventually pushed herself up, blood running down her cheek, her lip split. She looked at Harrison, eyes filled with rage and shame. You think this is the end, you bastard? Harrison didn't flinch. It is. I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow, and I've got it all. Photos, recordings, 20 years of proof. You and Russell were never slick. The judge will love it. Her lips curled. You won't walk away clean. I'll take everything you've got. He let out a humorless chuckle. Go ahead. I've spent years tracking criminals. I'll trace every asset, every account. When I'm done, you'll be lucky to leave with a suitcase. Russell coughed again, trying to speak. Harrison, we were friends. For so long. Harrison's voice cracked like a rifle shot. Don't! You never were. He stepped back, grabbed the barn door, and yanked it open. Get out, both of you, before I make some calls and have you both arrested for trespass or assault." Lena's glare could have cut steel, but she helped Russell stagger outside into the drizzle. Harrison followed them, watching as they climbed into their cars. Lena slammed her door, tires screaming as she sped away. Russell, hunched over the wheel, followed more slowly, blood still seeping from his mouth. Thunder rolled far off in the sky. Harrison stood alone in the muddy yard, rain soaking into his clothes. Part of him felt hollow, like something essential had been scraped clean. But beneath that emptiness, something raw still burned, cold, bitter, but real. The reckoning had finally come, and the next chapter would be fought in court. Just under a month had slipped by when Harrison walked through the courthouse doors, a folder of carefully compiled evidence tucked under his arm. Lena appeared not long after, a faint scar still visible on her lip, her face a cocktail of resentment and cold confidence. Despite the healing bruises, she carried herself with a steely elegance. Her lawyer, reputed for defending wronged wives, stood beside her, but Harrison's side hadn't come unarmed. They brought recordings, altered clothes, phone logs, everything they needed. The judge sat through it all, stone-faced, offering no clue to his thoughts. Lena's counsel painted Harrison as emotionally cruel, accusing him of locking her and Russell inside a barn in a deliberate act of malice. But once Harrison's attorney played the audio files, a hush fell over the courtroom. Lena's voice, sharp and mocking, spilled through the speakers, admitting to long-term infidelity, laughing about it. Her own words shattered the image her lawyer tried to create, and the judge's eyes hardened. Then came the revelations about Russell, multiple broken marriages, one even ending while the woman was pregnant, and Lena's part in those wreckages. The judge's scowl deepened. Harrison's actions, trapping them inside, no longer seemed vengeful, but instead the desperate act of a betrayed man pushed past his limit. On the stand, Lena wept, trying to cast Harrison as an unhinged ex-cop bent on revenge. She accused him of planning the beating Russell endured. She accused him of emotional manipulation. Still, Harrison's attorney stood firm. He outlined the uncomfortable truth. Lena had carried on an affair under Harrison's roof for over 20 years, mocking him with Russell like it was some twisted joke. The evidence was irrefutable. In the end, the judge agreed that Harrison had every right to pursue a divorce on the grounds of fault. Lena's years of deceit and unfaithfulness left her with no claim to spousal support. Harrison retained full ownership of the house, purchased before their marriage, which the court acknowledged. Given the scale of her betrayal, the judge denied her any right to his pension or retirement accounts. She received a small settlement, but only a token one, drastically reduced due to her proven wrongdoing. When the final decision came down, Lena's self-assurance finally cracked. She stood frozen, rage simmering beneath her skin, the weight of countless stares pressing in from all sides. Harrison exhaled deeply, the burden lifting from his shoulders like a slow tide retreating. Relief mingled with sorrow, grief, perhaps. A clerk came forward to hand over the final documents. Lena left without speaking, her gaze never meeting Harrison's. His lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder and spoke in a low, steady voice. "It's over. You're free." Outside, Harrison paused in the cold air, letting it settle into his lungs. Off in the distance, Russell leaned against a cane, his face still swollen from the fight. Sabrina was nowhere to be seen, likely tending to the fallout of her own collapsing relationship. For a fleeting moment, Russell met Harrison's eyes. Then he turned away and limped off, silent. Harrison didn't follow. He climbed into his truck, started the engine, and pulled out of the lot without a glance behind. Above, the gray skies began to part, and a weak sunlight filtered through. The dust had settled on the farm. The violence, the heartbreak, the confrontation, it was done. And so was the marriage. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.